Hello, Roy.
Hi.
We welcome a short talk on PCOS, the classification and the diagnosis.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the ESHRI ASRM Rotterdam criteria that were put together with a committee of 26 of us in 2003 and published in 2004. And what they say for the diagnosis of PCOS is any two out of the three following. Number one, oligo or anovulation. Number two, hyperandrogenism, which may be clinical or laboratory. And three, the ultrasound appearance of a typical polycystic ovary. Now, let me explain a little bit about those three symptoms. Oligoanovulation speaks for itself, less than once in 35 days, or amenorrhea, of course. Hyperandrogenism on the clinical side may be a persistent acne, and by persistent I mean 2 years. That means the usual acne that a teenager may get and that disappears doesn't usually count. So for acne we're talking about persistence for 2 years. Hirsutism is usually very obvious, but you can quantify using the Ferryman-Gallwey score. Any score above 8 would be considered as hirsutism. And a high testosterone, whatever unit you are using in your own lab, would count, of course, as a laboratory factor. Thirdly, the polycystic ovary and the appearance on ultrasound. First of all, any ovary over the size of or volume of 10 cubic centimeters would automatically qualify to be a polycystic ovary. But otherwise, the Rotterdam consensus said more than 12 follicles between 3 and 9 millimeters. There's been a bit of argument about this because the development of the ultrasound machines now, the new ones, gives us very much more resolution. So this in the future may change, but at the moment we're talking about 12 follicles. So we've defined oligoanovulation, we've defined hyperandrogenism, and we've defined the polycystic ovary. What you must do is rule out any other possible cause of hyperandrogenism, and those include congenital adrenal hypertrophy, and CAH can be ruled out usually using an examination of 17-hydroxyprogesterone. If that's very high, that is probably CAH. Otherwise, it's important to rule out ovarian or maybe adrenal tumours that are producing androgens. But this, first of all, from the clinical side, you can do because the clinical onset and the progress is usually extremely rapid, whereas PCOS is much more of an insidious onset. The levels of the androgens will also be extremely high if we're talking about an androgen producing tumour. And thirdly, you should rule out Cushing's syndrome by the usual way. Just to conclude, you should know that in a recent consensus, it turns out that 84% of the practitioners in the world are now using the Rotterdam consensus for the diagnosis of PCOS, and I hope very much that you will do the same. Thank you.